With the Sisyphean Journal, responding to yet another thing Ben Shapiro said in his excellent video that I'm going to link to below. He's like, now they're denigrating adoption. Uh, they've been doing that. They've been doing that since day one. And there's kind of two threads here that we need to untangle. One is the fact that, they denigrate abortion. They've been doing it. Back when I was an army wife in Germany back in the mid 1980s, my best friend there was a young woman named Anita, and she had a daughter who was a year older than my daughter and a son who was about the same age as my son. So it was really great to get the two families together. And she told me the story of how she wound up um, having her daughter Brandy. Anita had gotten pregnant when she was 15, and she really experienced some hard times. The boy who got her pregnant dumped her, kept going to school, and was trash talking her. And it also really was painful to see him around the school when she was abandoned and alone. So she dropped out of high school. And then her mother started threatening to throw her out of the house. So Anita went to get counseling at an abortion clinic because we know they give unbiased options counseling. So Anita said that the first approach they took was to tell her how cruel it would be for her to raise this baby. You see, if she had the baby, she would wind up living in a horrible neighborhood, on welfare, rampant poverty. If the baby was a boy, he'd probably grow up to be in a gang and he'd die in a gang shooting or wind up in prison. And if it was a girl, she was going to wind up being a prostitute and a drug addict, and just really browbeating Anita with the idea that having this baby and keeping it was going to be the most irresponsible thing she could possibly do. She'd be dooming the baby to this horrible life. So Anita said, well, okay, then I guess I'll make an adoption plan. So they showed her a video. And as Anita put it, Anita said to me, I didn't know the things they told me, that these adoption agencies, what they are, they're a front for child pornographers. And they give these babies to people who are making horrible kiddie porn and literally raping these babies to death on camera so they can sell the videos. That's the education about adoption they gave her. Okay. Now, remember, this was in the mid 1980s when I knew Anita. So it would have been around 1979, 1980 that they were doing this to try to get her to abort her baby. And Anita didn't want an abortion. She just felt horrible about that. But she didn't want a baby to wind up being, a drug dealer or a prostitute or an addict in prison. She wouldn't want her baby to have a horrible, horrible life. And she went to her mother, like, Mom, what would you do? And her mother said, well, if abortion had been legal, I would have aborted you and your sister. And Anita said, So that's when she kind of identified with the baby. And like I said, she had dropped out of school. Anita got her GED before her class even graduated. Later married a really great guy. They had another baby together. But that's the degree to which they really try to get the women off the adoption wagon. But the other thing is their denigration of adoption. They will say, how can she give up a baby she's carried for 9 months? And that's because they know that if she doesn't abort, by the time the baby's born, she's going to want the baby. And this is something that's been known for decades. I've seen articles written in the 1950s, 1940s about how women are going to feel panicked. They're going to feel like they can't cope. They want an abortion. And because it was illegal, the doctor would come on, we can get you past this phase. And she'd be glad she had the baby. And you get all these women. They're called stork trucks. The mobile pregnancy centers that will they get an RV, they convert it into a pregnancy center. They'll park it in front of an abortion clinic. And women who've already made an abortion appointment will walk in, see their ultrasound, and talk to a counselor and go home thrilled that they're going to have their babies. So, I think the pro-lifers need to kind of get off the choose adoption bandwagon, because it is buying into the idea that the babies in question are unwanted. It's not that the baby's not wanted, it's that the woman is in this kind of panic mode, and she's encountered people who are using that panic mode. Think about what they did to Anita, to try to get her to abort Brandy. And, I've heard far more stories than just that, and fatal abortions where the women were just browbeaten into it. So, they've been denigrating adoption the whole time. And part of the reason they do it is that they know that ultimately the babies won't be unwanted. You give the woman generally even a couple of days, ultrasound, let her listen to the heartbeat. She changes her mind. She wants the baby. And they don't want you to know that. And they certainly don't want the woman to know that.